Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to another Morgan James book launch. My name's Jim Howard. I'm the publisher for Morgan James Publishing. And today I'm really excited. We've got an incredible author who's written a very important book on a extremely important topic. And today we have Ciruolo. And Di's the author of Ally Up, the definitive guide to building more inclusive and innovative and productive teams. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us
Thank you
today.
so much for having me.
I am really excited because, the big thing is that 2020 was just this, time of really just a awakening to the understanding of systematic inequity that it exists for a lot of people.
Mhm.
And we saw a lot of conversations build over that time period specifically, but where are we today? What does this year hold?
Well, thank you first of all for asking. Yeah, I started writing the book probably in 2019, um, thinking that I was going to start writing this book to be a baseline of understanding so that when I went into these communities and these workforce communities, people had that baseline. They could have already read the book and that was going to be great. And that is how I started. But then as we sort of saw 2020 start to progress, like starting in March with the death of Breonna Taylor, and as we sort of continued and went on and on into the death of George Floyd. And so that's when we sort of started to see there was no break between one thing after another thing after another thing. So suddenly it became about, okay, well, now people are looking for this information that they need that is so, so crucial. How are you going to write it now? And it's like, okay, I've super duper got this. No big deal, y'all. We're going to keep going where we were going. We're going to start with this baseline of information and then give more of that and then have those conversations from an educated and empathetic way, as opposed to just like, walking in and just not knowing anything about the topic and often sort of, you know, swinging an axe around and just causing all this damage because you want to do as much good as possible and you just don't have that awareness yet. So the whole book is just written the way I'm talking now, just cover to cover, just explaining things as straightforward as possible so that you can do that real work in your own work and community environments. So yeah, where we are today, just to make sure I close that loop, is that we are still at that place where, like, okay, we all now understand that there's something to be done about it, but we're in kind of a lot of different places as workforces where it's like, okay, well, we started something, now where are we? We're a year later. Have we really done anything yet? Are we seeing any real progress? What would we do differently? What would we change? And so we're kind of a year deep in knowing that this stuff needs to be changed and needs to be talked about and needs to be looked at in our workforces. But now that we're also balancing that with a pandemic, there's just so much that's multifaceted. And this is exactly why we say systems of inequality, because it's not just one thing. Of course, we'd fix that one thing. So the entire book is written from the perspective of, okay, here's what you can do when you're hiring, here's what you can do when you're onboarding, here's what you can do in your culture, here's what you can do in leadership, here's what you can, so it's very, very straightforward. And I wrote it to be just as accessible as possible for all.
Yeah.
For all.
Yeah. And, I think that's so important because as you said here in the beginning, it's very easy for us to see something that needs to be changed and just immediately start going in and
Yes,
doing things, but those things may not be the best things or set us
that's
up for
right.
success further down the line. So
That's
getting
right.
that understanding and knowing what the cause and effects are of everything that we're doing
Oh
is going to
yeah.
be really important to kind of build those systems in place from top to bottom,
Yes,
so that we
absolutely.
make sure we address all the issues.
Absolutely. And I work in tech. So I mean, we're on the cutting edge, we're on the bleeding edge of how this stuff is going
Mm.
every single day. So as I watch us progress, we see very good stuff happening and then we have very dumb stuff happening. So what we want to do is like get everybody to the place where they understand why we're doing this so that we have these really innovative and productive conversations, which is a totally different thing than coming in and just like steamrolling everybody because you don't want to deal with this, or you don't want to think about it, or you don't understand how it's a business case, like all of those sorts of things. All of those questions are covered in the book. Like in great detail.
Yeah,
So,
that's amazing.
and everybody's going to be an ally to somebody at some point, right?
Mm,
Right now we're in June, so it's Pride Month, and we're talking about not everybody who is being impacted in workforces is necessarily belonging to one community over another. There are intersections of people's identities. And if we aren't able to understand what other people need who aren't us, that's how we be allies. We all are going to have to be an ally to somebody else within another community, within our workforce at some point, regardless of whether we identify that way or not.
yeah.
Many, many times. So
Yeah.
that's what the book's about.
Yeah, and I love the idea of ally, right? Coming
Yes.
together to
Yes.
help one another, and I think
Yes,
that
I'm
that's
a bridge builder. I'm a
yeah,
bridge builder. I see the problems. It's not that I'm uninformed. It's that this is the way I do business. This is the way I am. I only have this one version, so I have to keep being a bridge builder and hope that I'm right, because that's what I am. Yeah,
outstanding.
thank
So,
you.
what are some of the misconceptions or misunderstandings around diversity, equity, and inclusion work?
Thank you for asking, because it's definitely something that comes up for me. I
Yeah.
would say the first thing is that a lot of leaders come to me thinking that their problem is in hiring. So
Mm,
what'll happen is somebody will look around their office and they'll say, "Wow, we are decidedly monochromatic in here." And then they'll call me and they'll be like, "Di, we have a problem with hiring." And then I'll get there and it's like, "Okay, well, I could hire 50 people for you, but really your culture is the thing that's making people leave. So that's not helpful for you. I'm happy to charge you every time you want me to put somebody new in, but that's not something that changes for you. And that's not having the impact you want." Right. So there are many things that we can do that are terrible, but we want to be doing the stuff that has an impact. So that's the first thing I would say. And then another thing I would say is leadership.
mm,
Leadership is the thing that's so, so crucial when we're talking about making changes in people's organizations. And that stuff comes from the top down. I
yeah.
mean, I can give your middle managers anything to do, right? But if they don't have you, if they don't have your corporate buy-in, they're not going to follow those things, right? They're going to be letter of the law, not the spirit, every single time. So my work is about like empowering every level of people, because that is where we see change happening. And it is crucial that leadership understands that. So I would say those are some misconceptions right off the bat that I'm dealing with.
Yeah, and it's so true. You're right. We can give tools to any level of any organization or
Yes.
business, but from the top
Yes.
down is where the change has to happen, or
That's
it's not going
absolutely
to
right.
stick, it's not going to last, and it's not going to make the impact that we need it to make. So,
Right.
very cool.
We being DEI facilitators, diversity, equity, inclusion facilitators, often remark that middle management is where diversity goes to die,
Mm,
right? Because if you don't have good leadership in place, you're just going to be checking boxes. And sometimes that can be really harmful. And people will innovate around ways to just check boxes, right?
yeah,
People will innovate around how to make their job the easiest. So if all you've said as a leader is this is a box we're checking, you would be astonished the gross things that can come from that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
question, no question.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the issues that companies are or have that you specifically address?
So all of these issues, I would say, are multifaceted,
Mm,
but often I will go into somebody's business and sort of try to figure out what their pain points are first. Now, people use the word just a lot. We just need this, or we just need that. Oh, I think what's who did you work with last? Oh, you can't tell me. Well, whatever you needed for whatever they needed, that's what we need. And then the pain points can be entirely different. So it's just like, nope, that's not how that works. We're going to go ahead and get in there and we're going to measure where you're having your problems. And then I'm going to tell you what the next steps might be. And then we are going to iterate around what those steps can be for your business. We're not going to try to eat the whole elephant at once. We're going to start on the small steps. We're going to think about these things and we're going to lay out a 5-year plan. We're not going to come in and just like, you know, that doesn't work. Like, I mean, of course I want that, but that doesn't work. You can't just go in and wave a wand over everybody. If I had it, trust me, I'd be selling it. But like, we're not there yet. But like going in and measuring and talking about those things and providing that education and getting that corporate buy-in, getting that leadership, training those leaders, to be able to, and that's my favorite thing to do, if I'm perfectly honest, is just like connect with leaders, teach them how to do better, and just be the guy behind the curtain. I never want to be out there like talking for you. Like I love being out in the back, like making you look awesome. So
Yeah.
that's what I do. I'm a facilitator, is what I would say. Yeah,
That's awesome. So
thanks.
Di, we have a lot of people and a diverse group that are going to be tuning into this for sure. Um,
Yeah,
so I want to ask, who do you see this book benefiting the most? Because it's easy to say, well, this is a book that everybody should read, right? But
right.
who's going to be impacted and particularly impacted into a position that they can actually make a change, make a difference?
So I would say a lot of different people. So on the one hand, like I said, leaders, like I said, everybody who is working within
Mm,
systems where they're kind of like, okay, what's the advice here? Because not a lot of people know. A lot of times people, especially within the BIPOC community, can be sitting within a job and they'll reach out to me and say, well, it's only myself and one other person. How do we get corporate buy-in? How do we help the team be more diverse? How do we? And it's like, okay, all of those things are the wrong question, because you taking on the onus of teaching everybody at your work how to be more diverse and inclusive is putting on a emotional labor on you that is totally not your responsibility. So in my view, people who are benefiting from systemic oppression have the responsibility to unmake it. So from my view, anytime somebody calls me with that, it's like, let's talk to your boss. I'm happy to have this conversation for you. I'm not sure this is what you want. Like I definitely, of course, I want to talk to you and I want to help you and I want to get you there. But who I want more than that are the people who aren't doing that work for you, right?
mm,
I don't want to teach you how to get corporate buy-in. I want to teach them how to help you. I want to teach them how to include you. You know what I mean? It's a completely different thing. But so often we're seeing like people say, oh, I've never had this conversation before. You just blew my mind. And it's like, great, tell your friends. Like it's like, great, I'm super into that. Tell your friends. I want everybody to know how we do this, how we think about it, and how we move forward. Because from this point backward, it has been on the people who are being impacted by these things and by these um, things that are happening in our workforces
yeah.
to unmake those problems and stand up against those problems, often to their own detriment, often to their own career, you know, um, all of those things. And it's like, I want to teach people how to do better because I know we all want to. When I go out to these companies, I will see white folks in particular say, I want to be a better ally, Di. Teach me how to be a better ally. And it's like, perfect. You are in exactly the right place. Come on through, So that's really what I do. Um, and I would say even more so that like I want leaders who know, you know what I mean? Like I want to walk in a room and I want like people to be like, hey, this is what we're doing here already. Now let's move on to the next step. And it's like perfect,
Yeah.
like if I don't have to teach you the difference between like stereotype, prejudice, and discrimination, that's like, let's keep going, like let's keep but I will.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So
Whatever's necessary. I mean,
whatever's
that's what
necessary,
we have
whatever
to
is
do.
necessary, that's absolutely it. I think the people who are going to be impacted by it, I think, are everyone. I
Yeah.
think we imagine that people who are being impacted by the things that are happening within our workforces and being under those issues and suffering beneath those things, I think we think that like because they care about it the most, or because like they're being impacted by it, that it's on them to tell us like how to, and that's not what we want. That's not what we want. We want people to say, oh, this is already done. Okay, that's what an ally is. That's what an inclusive workforce is. An inclusive workforce is not people of color and BIPOC communities having to come in and teach you. It's you already knowing and making it inclusive. And that's what the book's about. So if that's what you want, that's what I'm here for too.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And here's the thing, folks. We've all heard, right?
Yeah.
You cannot be around over the last 2 years, 10 years even, and not
Mm.
have heard this message. But now we have to listen. Hearing and
Yes.
listening is different because when we
Yes.
listen, we understand. And when we
Yes.
understand, now we can put things in place to overcome, to create positive change, and to really open the door for everyone. And that's what that's what Di did with this book. As she said, it's straightforward, it's very clear. And I would say, when we look at ourselves, whether you're in a position of leadership or not, you
Mhm.
have the opportunity opportunity to be a leader. You heard
Yes,
Di talk about she wants to talk to leaders. Leaders are people who have a vision and a plan and are willing to put themselves on the line to make that plan happen. And all of us have that opportunity. So we all can benefit from reading this book, understanding the message, and using our influence wherever we are in position,
absolutely.
using that influence to make those difference. So Di, I think you've done just an incredible job with this book, spelling it out so clear. And more importantly, I think charging people, your passion comes through in your conversation. You feel it,
I'm
it's
really
authentic
glad.
and it's real. And that's what we need. We need that authentic, energetic charge.
Well, it comes from, I mean, everybody who is in the DEI community comes from a very authentic place.
Mm,
My authentic place is foster care. So I grew up in the Massachusetts foster care system. And when I aged out of foster care, which is when you become too old, when I aged out, I became homeless. So I moved from Massachusetts to Atlanta, like the way you only can when you're a stupid teenager, with just my laundry basket full of stuff. And I sort of joined this world and joined this community. Atlanta is 51, 52% Black or African American.
mhm.
Um, I fell in love with the community. I was there doing, I got into Georgia State. I did anthropology. I did gender, race, and class while I was living among the community. And I was just like, I was blown away how wrong we are doing things in our workforces based on our values. So, I mean, I couldn't afford to get into like reach schools. And then I wasn't being recruited at Georgia State. I was like, well, wait a minute. I have a great, like, this is a great school. I have a great degree. I am a leader here. I am leading the entire anthropology department as a student leader. Like, what do you mean you don't want me? Like, you're not coming to what does that mean? So a lot of the times when recruiters talk about like, oh, we only want the best, oh, we only want this. So a lot of my work is about teaching people what we mean by best, and like why we are like gatekeeping and restricting access to jobs and opportunities like this. And I want people to see all the places where we are leaning on these false narratives about who the best is, because I can tell you right now, I'm the best. Like, I am the best. If you don't have me on your team, you don't have the best. You know what I mean? So like, from my perspective, there are so many people out there that had to fight so hard to get to the top, that them having a non-traditional background should not be something that puts them off for you. So I'm just trying to get, like, I just want to tilt people's lens just a tiny, tiny bit while I'm here about what we mean when we say best, and what we mean when we say, of course we care about diversity. We just don't want to lower our standards. What are we really saying? What are we really talking about? What is this nonsense? So that's what we're doing here. That's where I come from. That's what I'm about. I'm half Hispanic, queer, 2 kids. That's where I'm coming from. Those are my intersectional identities. So that's the real place I explain this book from.
Outstanding. Outstanding.
Yeah.
Well, so, Di, I know people are watching this today, and they want to know more. There's
Yeah.
no way someone's going to hear this message today and say, nah, I'll pass. They're going to want to connect. So, what's the
Yeah.
best way for them to connect with you, find out more about what you're doing?
Yeah. So my website is my full name, just Ciruolo, Ciruolo.com. DiCiruolo.com. Really straightforward. I got the book up there. I have classes on there, everything that you could possibly need. Or you can find me on LinkedIn, and you can see me out there having those conversations in the real world. So it's up to you, whatever you like. I'm around.
Awesome. And we'll put a link to the website right under the
Yeah.
video. So we'll make it easy
Beautiful.
for you to find
Perfect. Thank you. Much better than me having to spell it, I swear.
it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, guys, this book is available everywhere books are sold, and I really encourage you to pick up a copy. This is
Yes.
such an important topic, and not just a topic. See, I think it gets categorized as this topic.
Yeah.
The topic
Yeah.
is this thing that we need to just talk about, but
Right.
it's so much bigger than that. And
This
this
is
is
a
something that
crucial
we,
understanding. This is a crucial awareness that
yeah,
all people need to be able to deal with other people. And this is something we need now post 2020. People are expecting you to know this stuff. And if you don't know it, that's cool. Pick up the book. I'm going to explain it to you. Let me spoon feed it to you and we can talk about it. Okay? Get off
awesome.
the sidelines.
That's right. Get into the game. We
Get into the
never win
game.
a game if we're not in the game. So,
Yes,
get in.
that's it. That's exactly it.
So, folks, grab your copy of the book, connect with Di, figure out how you can make a difference in your community and ultimately the world around you. We know that. We know that if we change one person's life in our sphere of influence, that we can change the community. And by doing that, we can affect change in the world. So Di's
Absolutely.
doing that very clearly with her message, with her book, and you guys need to be a part of that. So I hope that you take advantage of it. Di, thank you so much for
My
not
pleasure.
just not just talking with us, but for taking your experience, taking what you've understood, putting it in a book form, but more importantly, stepping out into that role and saying, "Hey, let me be a leader for this direction."
I really appreciate you saying so, because I'll be honest, it's scary. It feels very naked out there. I'll be real honest. So I appreciate everybody's support, because it's hard out there. It's hard out there. It's good work, and I really appreciate, my family at Morgan James for all the support I've gotten. It's been a phenomenal experience.
Well, we love you and love this book, and it's right there on my shelf, right behind me. So
Right behind me too. Keep yours up.
it's a powerful, powerful message. So I hope that everyone takes advantage of grabbing a copy of this book, at least connecting with Di on a larger scale, but most
Yes.
importantly, put it to use and make a change.
Yes.
So Di, thank you so much for talking with us
Thank
today.
you. Thank you so much. Thank
And,
you so much for having me.
everyone out there, thank you guys for watching, and we hope to see you on our next one.